Welcome, everybody. I know I see people coming, joining us. Thank you for choosing this event today. There's a lot going on. We are so grateful that you're here. Yesterday was International Women's Day. Embrace equity. I could not be happier that we have this event today that in some ways will be consolidating and continuing that celebration. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
In Africa and South Asia, climate change and poverty are defining challenges of our time. Climate change is dramatically impacting these regions, even though they have contributed less than 10% of cumulative global greenhouse gas emissions. Despite the fact that worldwide, 1.3 billion people have emerged from extreme poverty in the past 25 years, 400 million people in sub-Saharan Africa still live on less than $1.90 a day. Climate change threatens decades of progress and intensifies pre-existing inequities. It especially harms women and children and amplifies gender inequality. Children born in sub-Saharan Africa in 2020 are projected to experience 6 times more extreme climate events than those born in 1960. These challenges, along with climate-magnified disasters like the recent flooding in Pakistan, threaten the lives and livelihoods of millions. But solutions are at hand. If we address poverty and climate change simultaneously and synergistically, we can reduce the impacts of climate change and contribute to socio-economic development. Project Drawdown has identified 28 of our climate solutions that also substantially help alleviate poverty and enhance multiple aspects of well-being. The solutions focus on improving agriculture and agroforestry, protecting and restoring ecosystems, adopting clean cooking, providing clean electricity, and fostering equality. For example, growing trees and annual crops together, a powerful climate solution, can boost income and food and water security and provides benefits for education, health, gender equality, and energy. Similarly, providing clean electricity and adopting clean cooking can address energy poverty as well as improve networks, health, and gender equality, increase income and work, and boost educational outcomes while preventing hundreds of gigatons of greenhouse gases. How can we use this knowledge to address the dual climate and poverty crisis together? We have a window of opportunity to harmonize policies and align funding to ensure a brighter future for people and the planet. Policymakers and leaders in low and middle-income countries can simultaneously achieve low-carbon economic growth and accelerate progress toward reaching their sustainable development goals by prioritizing these climate mitigation solutions in their national climate plans. For instance, Rwanda has included climate-smart agricultural practices in its national climate plan. This contributes to climate goals and also increases income, enhances food and water security, and boosts climate resilience, especially in vulnerable communities. In low and middle-income countries, climate finance institutions, philanthropists, businesses, and investors can prioritize strategies that boost well-being and mitigate climate change. They can also advocate to fulfill funding commitments to meet rising adaptation and mitigation needs in low and middle-income countries and ensure that climate finance is additive to existing official development assistance commitments. Yet current climate investments are nowhere close to what is needed. In Africa, for example, approximately $250 billion is needed annually to help countries implement their national climate plans. Climate change and poverty are urgent problems, To solve them, policymakers and decision makers must consult and collaborate with leaders from local communities, indigenous peoples, women, and youth. By taking action to address climate change and poverty together today and fulfill urgent climate finance needs in Africa and South Asia, we will shape the well-being of millions of people for generations to come. For more information, see drawdown.org/drawdown-lift.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are thrilled to co-host this webinar with the Clean Cooking Alliance. I'm Kristen Patterson, the director of the Drawdown Lift program with Project Drawdown. Our mission is to help the world reach drawdown, which is the future point in time when levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere stop climbing and start to decline as quickly, safely, and equitably as possible. Today, as Wanjira said, we are continuing yesterday's observation of International Women's Day. I first celebrated International Women's Day in Niger as a Peace Corps volunteer in 1997. It was a day to lift up women's climate action leadership and their place in the home and communities. And I'm happy to celebrate International Women's Day this week as well. Today, we are lifting up women's climate action through work on agriculture, clean cooking, education, and health. While women are the most vulnerable to climate impacts, we also drive solutions. Advancing gender equality and putting women at the center of solutions is how we are making progress on both climate and poverty, two of the most critical issues of our time. One lesson that has stuck with me from my years in Niger is that working in silos doesn't align with how people in rural areas across Africa live their lives. I hope that our conversation today and Drawdown Lift's work will inspire you to take action on holistic solutions that are available now to address the interconnected challenges of climate and poverty. Project Drawdown has identified 93 climate solutions, nearly all of which focus on reducing emissions and increasing the ability of natural environments to store and absorb carbon. To draw down emissions, it's urgent for high-income countries to continue to rapidly shift to renewable energy and reduce consumption, and support low-carbon pathways to development in emerging economies. The video we just played highlights a subset of Project Drawdown's climate solutions that generate co-benefits for meeting the SDGs and climate adaptation, which, as we know, is absolutely critical for people in emerging economies. The AR6 IPCC reports that came out last year noted that interventions addressing context-specific inequities, especially gender, can reduce vulnerabilities and climate risks. Drawdown Lift's research responds to IPCC's call for interventions that simultaneously address climate change and the injustices associated with it. According to Lwanda, only 23% of countries have laws that grant women and men equal land rights. This must change so that women's investments in agriculture can be protected, as women play a critical role in food production, food security, and household nutrition. Women's perspectives at all levels can inform and shift the climate conversation, just as women's representation in leadership and governance generates improved decision-making. Today, we will hear tangible examples of how women and women's allies are leading climate action and implementing solutions that strengthen adaptation, boost human well-being, and mitigate future emissions. To get us started, here's a quick poll for you all to respond to, and then I'll hand it over to Jillene from the Clean Cooking Alliance to welcome us.
Thank you, Kristen, and hopefully everyone's had a chance to have a quick look at the poll. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining in the world. I'm Jillene Belopolsky. I'm the Chief of Staff and External Affairs at the Clean Cooking Alliance. And the Clean Cooking Alliance works with a network of partners like Project Drawdown. We're very pleased to be hosting this webinar with this morning to build a vibrant ecosystem that enables the growth of a clean cooking industry deliver accessible, affordable solutions to all. Today, 2.4 billion people lack access to clean cooking solutions, costing the world more than $2.4 trillion in damage to the climate and local economies, and contributing to nearly 4 million premature deaths each year. It is not possible to overstate the urgency for action, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, where the access is particularly low and the absolute number of people relying on polluting cooking fuels and stoves continues to rise. Cooking, perhaps surprisingly for some, is responsible for a gigaton of CO2 emissions each year. This is on par with the global shipping and aviation industries. And it's responsible for half of human-generated black carbon, making it the single largest controllable source of black carbon on the planet. 34% of wood fuel is harvested unsustainably and done so in precious biodiversity hotspots and carbon sinks around the world. What makes matters worse is that women bear a disproportionate share of this cost in the form of poor health and safety, as well as lost productivity and well-being. Women are more likely to be engaged in subsistence farming, suffer from food insecurity, face greater challenges in accessing credit, and are often excluded from decision-making processes that can affect resource management and limiting their ability to adapt to climate change. But the narrative is not one of victimhood. Instead, accelerating access to clean cooking and building resilience is a critical tool for empowering women and advancing gender equality. Women are essential to the widespread adoption and use of clean cooking solutions, and their agency as household decision makers and consumers should not be underestimated. The clean cooking sector presents opportunities for women to make their mark in a growing industry, and their involvement as employees and entrepreneurs helps businesses thrive. Last year at COP27, clean cooking was recognized as one of the critical 2020-30 breakthroughs to reduce global emissions and set a shared target for governments, donors, the private sector to urgently expand access to clean cooking through at least $10 billion in innovative finance each year. The Clean Cooking Alliance is also leading the development of a delivery units network, which is a transformative initiative designed to support national governments' clean cooking ambitions. The delivery units network reflects CCA's commitment to addressing gender equality and clean cooking by offering customized support to member countries in building a clean cooking delivery unit that suits their ambitions and unique country context. This will highlight the intersection of climate change and gender equality and embed gender-inclusive policies within national climate, development, and energy narratives as a way forward to develop effective strategies and mitigate the adverse impacts of climate change on women's empowerment. There is incredible work being done by individuals and organizations around the world to deliver holistic, inclusive solutions that integrate energy, environment, health, and livelihoods. And women are the driving force. It's the women on this panel and in the field who make this happen every day, feeding their families, working in sales, designing stoves that women want to use, running leadership team, designing financing structures, implementing policy, all of it. Because let's be honest, in this Women's History Month, if cooking were predominantly a men's issue, it would have been fixed. It would not be the SDG target that is the furthest behind. So during these uncertain and difficult times, we turn to women leaders around the world for inspiration. They drive innovation against all odds and persist in the face of obstacles, insisting on building a better future for all of us. Women's resilience will save the world. And with that, I'm very happy to welcome you to today's webinar, which features a brilliant lineup of experts and activists leading on climate action. And it is my pleasure to hand over to our esteemed moderator, Wanjira. Thank you.
Jillene and Kristen, thank you so much. That was a wonderful way to start what is truly a crucial issue and discussion and issue. It is about defining the challenges of our time, and that's what was talked about in the video, but also about really defining the opportunities of our time. And I think that's why the lineup, the panelists, they don't look back, they look forward. They are ambitious, bullish about the future, and this is really about solutions. And one of the things that always amazes me is just how quickly things are getting worse and worse the longer we wait. 6 times more extreme events we heard in that video. And that's also why I am delighted to welcome you to this CSW67 event. It is a parallel event, Women Leading Climate Action Through Agriculture, Education, and Health. But you chose the right one, because during this next 90 minutes, we're going to hear from 4 amazing panelists, and they share their wisdom on how women are leading climate action and justice and solutions. My name is Wanjira Mathai. I'm the Managing Director for Africa and Global Partnerships at the World Resources Institute. I like to think of myself as a community builder, connecting people with big ideas. And that's exactly what this is about today. I'm joined by amazing panelists, and I hope you can see them. The screen I have doesn't show the panelists, but I want to introduce them in turn. Makandi Laiboni, she's in Nairobi at the moment. She's with Tupande, the 1 Acre Fund, doing amazing work. You'll hear about it yourself. We also have Natasha Lwanda. She's joining us from Zambia. She's with CAMFED. Who doesn't know the amazing work that CAMFED is doing, the Campaign for Female Education. Patience Alifo, co-founder of Econexus Ventures Limited, a Ghanaian-based biotech social enterprise. I mean, what's not to like? So Patience will be sharing some of her work and what she's excited about. And then Sohanur Rahman, I mean, this young guy, this young person, youth-led organization called the Bangladesh Model Youth Parliament, a climate influencer running the biggest youth network in Bangladesh. I couldn't be happier to have this 4. But just before they go, I just want to set a little bit of context. And we know that communities, and that video put it out very nicely, that individuals and communities, we all know that to address climate change, we have to advance gender equality and equity. Women must be represented, and even more, they must be at the forefront. They must be heard, and all of that is going to be, it's manifest in the work that these young people are doing today. It's often said that women and girls, especially those of us who live in Africa and in Southern Asia, are amongst the most vulnerable, and are experiencing climate change first and worst. Quite frankly, we hear this all the time. What we don't hear is what's actually being done about it. And so we're also the ones with the solutions, and that's what we'll hear today. Our voices really, and the ideas have to be prioritized. We need to invest in them, boosting resilience, creating systemic change. And what I really like, and we saw that figure, $250 billion a year needed to activate national adaptation plans. That needs to go to initiatives like these to turbocharge them, because the time is now. I'm joined by these young people because they're doing exactly that. Last year, we saw the report that Drawdown produced and published, Climate Poverty Connections, Opportunities for Synergistic Solutions at the Intersection of Planetary and Human Well-Being. In there, several solutions that we can lean into and research that we can also partake. But be that as it may, I want to thank everybody for being here and go straight into the questions that we have for our young leaders. I'm going to start with you, Makandi, because you're actually right there in front of me. I want you to share your climate story. How do you see all of this? What inspired you to do the work that you do?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Wanjira, and I'm really happy to be here today and share with all of you. So my story starts from my country, which is Kenya. And for me, based on the various issues being faced within the country as a result of climate change, such as the floodings that we've been seeing in Lake Turkana, all while still facing, one of the worst droughts in years. I am really nervous about the climate situation in my country, specifically the implications it has on smallholder farmers. Farming is gonna get harder and harder as most farmers rely on, rain-fed agriculture. And the question really is, how do we layer on resilience interventions to, be able to empower the farmers towards prosperity? And beyond, climate change affecting my country, as a woman, I am concerned that there's still a major gap that needs to be bridged in empowering women and building more efficiencies for them in agriculture. And I'll reference a study I saw some time back that, basically compared a day in the life of a female and male farmer and the difference in activities, both economically and at the household level. The insights were quite alarming between the two based on the differences that did come out. Whereas the woman gets up at 5 a.m. and closes her day at 8:30 p.m. after, going to the farm and carrying out other household and family-based duties. The man is up at 6 a.m. and by 2 p.m. he's finished for the day and, is either with friends or at a bar thereafter. So this really does raise a question and a concern and really, really got me thinking. And looking at, the work that we do as One Acre Fund, really our vision is to transform, every farming community in Kenya by delivering sustained food security and pathways to prosperity. And we, do this by providing access to a range of quality farming inputs through affordable credit or cash that are delivered at, our customers or clients' convenience. We also to provide training on best farming practices and the ability to basically maximize, their profits through market access, our market access crop buyback program. And basically through this vision, we have and continue to invest in a number of initiatives aimed at not only increasing farmer impact through inputs, training, and market access, but also others really revolving around the entire farming cycle that could act as a hindrance to putting them on this path to prosperity. And one way we really talk about this and actually initiate this is that we are building a layered shield or layered approach to basically shield the farmer, whereas we're sort of like adding on agroforestry, crop insurance, soil health, and nutrition. So all this to say, my inspiration really is, not only as a result of the concerns I do have around the climate situation that we are facing within the country, and also, some of the insights that we're seeing between the gender divide, but also the vision within the organization that I do work with, which is One Acre Fund, and equally, the innovation and exciting ways in which we are working towards enhancing our farmers' lives and using technology to accelerate this vision.
Makandi, that's brilliant. And I want to stay with you because you said so many things that I resonate with, but I also know is of interest for the audience that's here. The work that you do is so heavily driven by women. The farming communities around the world are 70, 80% women. Do you have any examples of inspiring ideas or inspiring examples of how women in the work that you're doing at Tupande have been supported? What are the opportunities to support them? What does it look like? Paint a picture for us to see what it looks like.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to give an example of a critical intervention that we did carry out and have been actually carrying out for the past 2 years. That's focused on enhancing and maximizing the nutrition status for women and their households. So we did carry out nutrition trials, and this was basically the goal was to drive the behavior change amongst pregnant and lactating mothers, but also looking at the environment in which our female farmers are operating in and live in. And so we also did target or did have the goal to influence key decision makers in our small farmer households, basically to be able to adopt like the best nutrition practices. And what was very exciting about this is that we did have a combination of both offline and digital interventions. And what we did discover with like the digital interventions in this case, we were using the interactive voice response, was that it did enable us to engage women at their preferred time and convenience, who in turn collectively listened to the trainings that we had curated as, in form of dramas. And they did share this key message with the households and communities. So they did turn out to be like really key influencers in, driving this behavior change as well and accelerating it. And we also did see that, through this collective message consumption through like digital channels, they did start to influence each other and adopt like some of the behaviors that we were advocating for, such as, setting up vegetable gardens and rearing chicken to provide additional nutrition to their family and their children as well. So that's one example that I can really share that really shows like the collective way and reach that digitalization can help support women, and also reduce the digital divide that we're seeing amongst women and men in this country.
I love that, Makandi. I love the impact that has beyond. We know how much investing in women actually results in so many more people benefiting, this concentric circle of support which you've painted so beautifully. I want to move on, and I'll come back to you, Makandi, but I want to move to Natasha, because Natasha, what Makandi has painted in many ways links very well young people, young women and girls to become influential change makers. I see Natasha is trying to unmute herself. There you go.
Hi, Wanjira, thank you so much. I'm having network challenges, so a few seconds ago, I didn't even get what your question was.
Oh, Natasha, don't worry, I can repeat it. I'm just so happy to see you. And the question was really that what Makandi talked about and the role of women and how their impact expands to others. I know that you are also working very hard with young men, women and girls to ensure that they too become influencers and climate influencers. So I just wanted you to share a little bit about your story. How did you come to that, and why is that such a point of passion for you?
Thank you so much, Wanjira, and hello to everyone that's on the call. So my story started in the year 2010 in Milenga district, one of the rural areas in Zambia. So I made it to grade 8, and my family did not have the means to support me to continue with school. Even if I had very good grades, I didn't have uniforms, my school fees were not paid, and we didn't even know how we were going to do that. And at that point, I knew that that was the end of education for me. And I was so sad because I knew that education was the only way I was going to remove my family from poverty and make my life better, but the story was sad then. And then the campaign for female education came to my rescue. So CAMFED came to my rescue, paid all my fees, gave me new uniforms and all the other materials that I needed to remain in school. And at that point, I knew that for me, the only thing I needed to do is work hard, which I really did. I invested my all in my education, and I really did well at secondary school. So after completing my secondary school education, CAMFED introduced me to the CAMFED Association. So The CAMFED Association is a group of rural young women sharing a similar background of poverty and marginality, educated through CAMFED support, and are now championing education and climate action in Africa. And in the year 2020, I was elected chairperson of the CAMFED Association in Zambia, leading more than 17,000 women. So, having experienced firsthand the challenges of marginality and poverty, I have this personal commitment to giving back and helping rural young women and girls to thrive. So, I see the impact of the climate crisis on my community, affecting crop and livestock production, and really worsening the problem of poverty, which already existed before the issue of climate change. And now I want to use my powers as an educated woman to address this challenge with my fellow association members. So I'm working as part of the sisterhood of 23,000 other women in Zambia and over 240,000 women, members of our association across Africa, to lead action on this. And that's what drives me. My personal experience of poverty and the difference that education has made in my life, and the amazing sisters that I have in my network. So together we are setting a clear example of the power of education in creating women leaders across Africa. We do not work alone, we work with other stakeholders across the sectors of the environment, agriculture, education, community development, and community members. And our focus really is to make communities sustainable and inclusive, and to improve the livelihoods through the various skills training programs, community mobilization, and philanthropy. So that's my story. Thank you so much,
Natasha. Thank you so much. In fact, you know what's funny, Natasha, you answered all three of my questions that I was going to ask you. But what is amazing about what you said, though, is just how much your personal journey in staying in school was also an extension of the work that you now do, which I think is so amazing when you can actually do that. I'm not surprised that you are chair. The CAMFED is so lucky to have you there. Patience, I want to come to you because you too have quite an incredible story. The work that you're doing with sustainable for biofuel and waste to energy production in Africa, your innovations. What inspired you to get into this work?
Yeah, hello everyone. First of all, I want to say Happy International Women's Day to all the women here. You all are well cherished. You know, last week, Saturday, my team and I went for a retreat. We went to one of the rural communities in Ghana in the Western region. And we took a tour to a town called Inzuleza. So when we went there, we actually learned that most of the people in that community live on the river. They have built houses on the river. So when we had to paddle in a boat to get to the community. When we were going, what I saw was young girls who they were paddling on the water to search for firewood before they can get access to fuel to cook. I was very emotional when I saw that. I was like, wow, in this 21st century, young girls have to paddle on the water to go to the forest to get firewood before they can get access to fuel for their family to cook. And that reminded me of my story when I was growing up. Growing up, I realized that my grandmother had to go all the way to the bush to get firewood for the family so that the family can get access to fuel to cook. Because I grew with my grandmother and something terrible happened. One day she went to the bush to get firewood and she was bitten by a snake and she has to stay home because of that. And I grew up with that, and at the age of 19, that story still was on my mind. So I watched a documentary on DWTV that was called Eco Africa, that were talking about how we could have alternative source of energy for women who are in rural communities, who are poor, who don't have money to buy, get access to the LPG gas, electrical stove, and everything. So watching that documentary, I was moved to do research. So I researched and I realized that, okay, Ghana, we have a lot of bio waste. We have pineapple waste, we have sugarcane chaff, we have cashew apple waste, a whole lot. And I realized that, okay, we could actually turn that into fuel. So I was able to talk to some couple of people who were in the industry, and I got selected by British Council to turn that idea into a prototype, and that was how the journey began. I began through that training, did my market segmentation, business model canvas, and were able to bring up with the first product. And after the first product, we were supported by the Makandi Entrepreneurship Challenge, with a seed capital of $5,000, and we were able to turn the prototype into product, test the product into the market, and we're able to reach women in rural communities with the product. And first, the product was called a clincher, that was briquette. We first turned the coconut waste into chocolate briquette. And these women were so happy to receive that product because they did not have any access to any kind of fuel aside the firewood. They have to go all the way to the bush. Even with pregnant women, they have to carry their babies on their back, go to the bush, carry firewood on their head before they can have access to energy. So when we presented that product to them, they were so excited. So after that, my co-founder, that is Prince, he was able to, my co-founder, that is Prince Isel, he was a chemical engineer and also in the engineering industry. He said during the COVID lockdown, we were producing sanitizers, and we realized that, okay, we can actually turn those bio waste, such as the pineapple waste, cashew apples, into ethanol fuel. So that's when we started producing our clean bioethanol fuel as well. And that's when we also promoted Econexus into various communities in Ghana. And as at now, we've been able to serve 512 households in Ghana here, and more than 1,000 women in the rural communities. And these women's lives have been impacted, and now they can have access to clean cooking fuel and stove as well. And this is the work that we are doing here in Ghana. Thank you.
Patience, that's brilliant. And you know, it is amazing to see just how you observed, and even now in your own studies, how you observed and found an opportunity. And that's what, when we are talking about how entrepreneurs on the African continent are observing and creating opportunities, you're such a brilliant example of that you're creating opportunities for others, you're creating opportunities for women, but you're also solving such a critical issue. And it's so inspiring that. And I just wanted to ask one other question to you, Patience. What is the biggest barrier then to expanding this work, especially for women? Are there enough people interested in this area of work? And by the way, all of you are getting so much love and applause. I don't know if you can see those beautiful hearts and claps flying through the screen. It's wonderful. Thank you for such a supportive audience.
Okay, thank you so much. So in Ghana here, many people don't, especially women, don't know about clean cooking, easy access to clean cooking fuel and stuff. And with that, we are in the industry. Our major challenge is working capital. Most of the grants that we have is into the purchase of process machine to produce the fuel. But we need human resource, we need the working capital to increase our capacity. So one major challenge that we face is working capital and visibility, support from the government. But thanks to Clean Cooking Alliance, last year I was awarded as the Clean Cooking Alliance Women Leaders Award Youth category, and that gave me a lot of visibility, and it opened door for my company to have access to grants and also working capital. Yeah, so I really want to thank Clean Cooking Alliance for this opportunity. But one major challenge women like myself are facing is working capital. But international agencies like Clean Cooking Alliance are doing amazing to put us out there for many donors to know what we are doing. They are really supporting us. Thank you.
brilliant patience. And I want us to hear from Sohanur, because he knows a lot about what it takes to mobilize young people. Sohanur, we would love to hear your story. I'm so impressed by the leadership you provide in Bangladesh. Please share.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Sohanur Rahman, Executive Coordinator, YouthNet for Climate Justice. So I am from a area which is a climate crisis prone area, like, cyclone. So when I faced a cyclone, it was in 2007. It's named Super Cyclone Cedar. So that time I was the class 7 grade student, and that night is a nightmare to me. And still I can memorize that, the devastation, and still it's create pressure to me. So this, this traumatic problem inspired me to take action. So I was also the child rights activist with the Child Parliament Bangladesh. So I advocate for more child investment or child rights or child rights issues. So we found a good connection, that interlinkage between climate crisis, natural disaster, poverty, and child marriage. Bangladesh also one of the child marriage prone area. So climate crisis, natural disaster, or pandemic is not impacting equally rich and poor. So poor people, they are taking coping mechanism is a child marriage to cutting their economic burden, or child labor as a coping mechanism. So then when I was advocating for ending child marriage, then I found that I have to focus on the mitigating climate crisis, because without mitigating climate crisis, we can't protect our girl child, we can't ensure gender justice also. And I visited a islands in the southern Bangladesh, a islands named Underchor, means X island, looking like X. So then I found 8,000 people there, but no shelter for them, or they are getting girls are getting early pregnant, and they are losing their lives, and no basic health care there. So but they are not more responsible for climate crisis. Their carbon footprint is very low. They can't consume meat. They have not using refrigeration or air condition, but they are paying highest price. They are bearing a brunt of climate crisis. And Bangladesh and Pakistan is not contributing less than 1% or a half percent, but we are paying highest price. And another discourse is that we all time highlighting or portraying women vulnerabilities. And it's right, women and girls are paying highest price. And in Bangladesh currently, girls are taking birth control pill to mitigate the water crisis. But women also leader, and women also solution. So solution in the ground, women and girls are the solution. So I found with my young activist Shakila, it's YouthNet for Climate Justice, to ensure justice for those girls, for those women who are in the front line. So frontliner in not in front page. So our ambition is to bringing the frontliner in the front page at all levels, from local level in national policy making, as well as the global forum like CSW or COP. So we are providing capacity development training to young people, especially young women, and we are focusing on them. And in Bangladesh, we are facing some social stigma, especially religious barrier. Women can't go out for training or activism, but in COVID time, we leverage the ICT potential. So we provide training to rural women, girls, and then girls become facilitator or trainer, and then they provide training through ICT platforms and create more influential young leader, young activists. So my last point is that we must focus on the women representation, women empowerment, not removing men and boys. So we must also focus on men and boys, but we normally talking about the symptom, but not we are focusing on disease. So one of the rooted disease is a masculinity or domination. So we need transforming masculinity and also be part of the solution, not part of the pollution. In Bangladesh, women are using clean cook stove named Bondhu Chula. and 20% of that 35 million people have access to Bunduchula. So it's it's a way of solution to cutting indoor air pollution, cutting deforestation, and part of the mitigate climate crisis. Thank you. Over to you, Wanjira.
Wow, Sohanur, what a brilliant presentation. I can imagine what a voice that you have for those communities. One of the things that you articulated so well is just how everything is connected. You talked about the devastation, the child marriage, inequity, and how all of those are connected. And then, of course, the very vulnerability. We read about Bangladesh all the time, and the fact that actually you are always faced with these challenges, but what a great job Bangladesh has done into putting early warning systems in place. Today, we don't see as much devastation, but we know that loss and damage after these cyclones is still such a real issue. Sohanur, do you have any examples that you can share where you feel women are getting the support they need? I loved the brilliant example on the ICT. What a way to innovate. How else are you seeing women especially supported to address climate vulnerability in the work that you're doing?
Yes. Thank you, Wanjira. So my colleagues Humaira from Sylhet region, it's a northeast part of Bangladesh, and last year Bangladesh faced a extreme event. It's a flood. It's broken the 122 years record of the rainfall. So Sylhet community was not much prepared about for flood management, but we provide training, especially young women, about the climate change, disaster management, and in COVID time. And another issue is multiple vulnerabilities. Like we normally focus on women, but we are not focusing on the women with disabilities, women with transgender or indigenous. So we also focusing on that intersectionality, but we take the leverage of ICT, especially Zoom meeting, Zoom training to girls. So our young volunteers, they were prepared, they were ready. So when their community faced the devastation, so our young women volunteer Humaira, she played a pivotal role to volunteer coordination, and that time government INGOs, they are busy to develop the report, situation report, fundraising, but community need need the emergency support. So that time our women's colleagues, they led the way. And in pregnant women, so when the water strike, so no one is bringing pregnant women in the shelter home. So our women grassroots activists, they take the leadership, they take a responsibility on their shoulder, and they rescue that most affected pregnant women to safe shelter and support to their pregnancy times. So it's these women's Humaira received recognition this year from ActionAid Bangladesh and different embassies in Bangladesh. So I think it's one achievement that we bring women to support other women in the climate crisis time. Thank you. What do you, Wanjira?
Terrific, Sohanur. I'm going to go and ask each of you again, just your examples and your experience is so important. And I know that we talk about finance all the time, finance, quality finance for the work that you do. I want to just ask you, are there resources and platforms that are supportive to the work that you do? I would love to hear, are you getting the support that you need? That's one, but also the people you serve, the communities that look up to you, and the point that Sohanur made about this is about women and men. This is about boys and girls. Absolutely. We must talk about this as communities, because communities are both of us. And I always remember this wonderful story that used to be told to me, that there is no way you can have women doing really well and men doing poorly and call that a thriving society. So you're absolutely right. Great point taken. Just wanted to hear how the resources that are available. Makandi, I can start with you again. The resources available for others to engage with your work, but also whether you find the financial support easy to come by, hard. What would you say?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Wanjira. So in terms of the resources being available for the work that we do, I think one of the cornerstones of One Acre Fund is really to provide quality inputs through affordable credit. So that's already one of our key focus areas that basically drives inclusivity, financial inclusion across the board. And one of the key things that we think will really help us accelerate this, amongst our customers and smallholder farmers as a whole is really leveraging technology to be able to reach even more people and enabling them to be able to access this credit and financing at the touch of a button. So that's one of the key things that is really within our vision at this point. Sorry, Wanjira, I think I need you to just
the second
yes,
part of the question.
Yes.
Is just what resources are out there, platforms that outside people can engage with at Tupande or One Acre Fund. How do farmers find you?
Yeah, really, really great question. So we recently launched a mobile app that basically will be able to provide all of One Acre Fund and Tupande's services and solutions to various farmers. So you do not have to be solely based within the areas where our field officers are located. You could, access, credit. You could access our quality inputs through this mobile app. So that just basically enhances the reach across the country for us. And then secondly, we do have field officers, that's pretty much more limited around geographical regions, but still it does provide a very, very effective way of, creating a real sort of like relationship-based interaction with, various customers that we serve. And we also do have shops across the country where, any farmer can walk into the shop and ask any agronomic-based questions, get recommendations on the best seeds that they could plant around their region that would thrive and produce, high yields within their region. Therefore, having a little bit more of like a one-on-one optimized agronomic recommendation for the farmers. So we do have a multi-channel approach where various customers and farmers can reach us. Yeah.
That's great, Makandi. Thank you. Natasha, I wanted to find out from you whether in your experience, of course, the value of education, but I wondered whether you have any examples, or at least you feel that women are now being supported. Do you feel that women get the sort of support they need with organizations like CAMFED? If not, what's missing?
Thank you so much, Wanjira. I think I can say we are on the path to create more platforms and resources for women. So in our association, our members have taken up several roles. So the first one is we have the learner guides. So these volunteer in the schools, spending time with the learners and also walking them through CAMFED's Make Better World program. It is a life skills training program, which they are able to implement in the schools. And apart from helping the learners to improve in their academic work, as well as raise their self-esteem and help them to make good choices, the learner guides are able to notice the girls that are missing school and to follow them to where they live and to find out why they're missing school. And through this program, a lot of girls have been saved from being child brides. And by doing so, we are seeing a population of girls that won't enter into early marriage, but stay in school and thrive and get educated and be able to take care of themselves and their families in future. And the other program that we have is the Agriculture Guide program. So the Agriculture Guide program is spearheaded by members of our association who have been trained in climate smart agriculture. So these ones, they work with agriculture extension officers from the Ministry of Agriculture, and they're able to go in the community and educate the community members, and especially women, about what climate change is, why they're experiencing some of the effects of climate change, and what they can do about it. These women are people who do not have access to technology or even a newspaper, such that if the agriculture guides did not reach them, they wouldn't receive any information about climate change or climate smart agriculture. And I think this program is important because most of the families in the rural communities where we operate depend on agriculture, and most of them are subsistent agriculture. And like you mentioned earlier, I'm agreeing that the largest population of farmers is women. So we have these programs, and it's really helping women to understand what climate change is and what they can do about it, and to also just give them the skills that they can implement in their farms, and also be able to yield good harvests and be able to support themselves and their families. Thank you so much, Wanjira.
Natasha, great. Actually, there's a question that speaks a little bit to what you just said, and I wonder whether you could reflect on it. There's somebody who wanted to know, Natasha, that in what sort of friction women are facing in accessing finance for agriculture, and whether there are some quick wins that would enable better access to finance, better security, better stability.
Thank you so much, Wanjira. To just answer the question, of course, women really face challenges to access resources and finances to improve their farming and every other activities that they are doing. But through our association, we have been able to reach over 74,000 community members with information, and 31,000 students with financial support from our proceedings of the farming enterprises that our young women are engaged in. And we've been able to receive support for 5,000 young women to grow their agribusinesses. This is through the grants and the loans that are meant to empower the women to improve their farming inputs and be able to do their agriculture business better. So of course we do have, but I wouldn't say the funds are sufficient to meet each and every individual in the community, but we do appreciate the support that we have received so far, and we are hoping that more women can be supported to make their lives even better. Thank you so much.
Natasha, thank you for that response. That's brilliant. In fact, Patience, I want to come to you with the same question. I wonder whether how you would reflect in Econexus. You are constantly probably making sure that you have enough finance flowing. What would be your insight around access to finance, better access to quality finance and security and stability?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So for personally with Econexus, what we do is that we prepare a pitch deck, and that help us to apply for grants and also apply for competitions for young entrepreneurs and everything. So I'm encouraging all the young ones here, if you're a female entrepreneur, or if you're a female, you have any idea in agribusiness or anything, what you need to do is that, first of all, you need to understand your business model. Go through incubation program, because it will help you a lot. When you go through all those incubation programs, it will help you to define your business model and also prepare a pitch deck. Now, there's a lot of opportunity for female entrepreneurs around the world, in agribusiness, in clean cooking, in innovation, tech, in financing. There are a whole lot of grant opportunities. So what you have to do is that, first of all, you need to be curious yourself. What I do always is that I go on the internet and search for grant opportunities for female entrepreneurs, young leaders around the world, and I apply. And before you apply, make sure that you have your business model, business plan, or your project idea well stated, your project concept well defined, and present it in a way that when the international agencies or the grant donors see it, they'll be impressed to contact you to know what you're doing further, to see if they can support you or not. So you don't just get up and apply for grants. Be intentional. Make sure that you present your presentation appropriately so that you'll be qualified to receive grant. Yeah, thank you.
Patience, you're getting a lot of thumbs up, everybody agreeing with that. I think that's brilliant. And I wonder whether you can share some insights of moments where it hasn't gone so well, Patience, where people, you've applied, you've prepared, and people say no. What are some of the reasons where finance is not forthcoming that you're given for that negative response?
Okay, so every, international agency or grant donors or any investor wants to make sure that wherever he or she is putting the money into, it will produce results. So personally, when I was starting at the early stage, I had a lot of challenges. I had a lot of disappointment because I was still in my early stage. I was still developing the business. So in those stage, I had a lot of no. But those no's really encouraged me and helped me to go and do what I didn't do right. Yeah, so I'll encourage you, when you get a no from any of the agencies or grant donors or investors, that doesn't mean that your project or your business is not viable or it's not brilliant. It is brilliant, but make sure that you know what they are looking for. Some of the young people, we don't take our time reading the grant applications very well. We don't take our time reading what exactly they are looking out for. When we see it, we just get excited and start applying. No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. Make sure that you take your time, you read exactly what they are looking for, you look at their questions and answers, you know exactly the information they are requiring from you. And when you're able to give that appropriate information, it's hardly to say no. And right now, I will say this final word: keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. Just keep doing what you're doing. One day, you'll be up there and all the big, donors, investors will start looking for you. When you receive no, that doesn't mean that you are not brilliant enough or your project is not viable enough. Don't stop there. Just keep moving. Just keep pushing. And one day you get there. Thank you.
Oh, Patience, my goodness. I want you to be in every room when I'm doing any pitching. That was brilliant advice from a sage. And really, thank you for sharing that, because it's so important for people to know. Keep doing what you're doing. That has always been some of the best advice. Eventually, you crack through, and you're getting a lot of applause as well. Sohanur, I want to come to you and just ask you to share from the networks that you're working with. What are some of the finance stories you have from youth trying to access finance, and what do you hear?
Yes, can you hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. So Wanjira, so we believe no climate justice without gender justice, and no climate justice without the finance, especially climate finance. So, global leaders are telling in COPs and different from that we are in a same crisis and we are in a same boat, but we are not in the same boat. So they are in a big ship like Titanic, and we are sinking, but they are not providing our lifeboat. But they are telling global shield or many things. But it's a greenwash sometimes, eyewash. And currently most of the funding, especially 80% funding, is going to mitigation and 20% funding is going to adaptation, according to IIED London. And we demand 50-50 fair share on mitigation and adaptation. So global community agreed, but still you're not getting fund. And especially 2% funding is going to ground, in the ground level. But to tackling climate crisis, our main solution will from ground, grassroots. Solution will not come from London or come from Sharm el Sheikh or Dubai. Solution come from a village of Nairobi, a village of Bangladesh, but local led organization. local-led women organization, youth organization, they are facing huge barrier, especially systematic barrier. Like in Bangladesh, we are promoting youth-led movements, network, advocacy with the government, different phase, but we are not getting single money from government. And we are facing another problem is NGO registration. So we can't achieve single dollar without be a formalized NGO. So when we will be formalized NGO, then government can control us. Then government can control our movements. So day by day, our civic space are shrinking. And when we will be an NGO, our main focus will be only project development and service delivery. But continuous advocacy, or especially movement building against fossil fuel, against the coal-based power plant, it's very risky. So we are not getting funding from our internal sources. We are not getting funding from our outside sources. So it's a very critical time to continue these activities. So all events, everyone talking that you are doing amazing work, you are doing fantastic work, but we are not getting fund, we are not getting enough access to fund, and huge barrier, like we have to be a registered trade organization, we need different policies, financial mechanism, and then we are not eligible to getting that fund. So to solve this crisis, to ensure climate protection, we must support grassroots organization, community-based organization, women organization to lead this process and enhance their capacity. They have not capacity is not right way. So like, Green Climate Fund. So when you approach a funding, it will approve after 4 years or 5 years. That time the village will be gone. So now, loss and damage fund will be created. So our one of the major demand is that loss and damage fund must ensure the local priorities, local needs, and it should be easy access to grassroots youth organization. Thank you. Over to Wanjira.
Oh, Sohanur, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. I think what you've said, Sohanur, is so important around the access to finance, and actually more the issue of trust. That trust needs to be at the center of access, because the quality finance on the table, but we are just not getting access. You're hearing it in Bangladesh, we're hearing it everywhere. And I think this year has to be the year when we ensure that finance is actually delivered. And where is that accountability? Where is the governance? And your voice will be crucially important, Sohanur, in making sure that we continue to push for that. Two questions actually, and I'm going to go to some of the questions that we are receiving from the audience. Patience, there's a question here, and maybe this is a wonderful question for all of you, but I'll start with you, Patience. What brings you the most joy, and have you explored finance for expanding your work with clean cooking from voluntary carbon markets? But maybe the first one, what brings you most joy, I guess, in your work?
Okay, what brings me most joy is to see women, especially pregnant women in rural community, having access to our clean bioethanol fuel and stove. And they shouting, excited, like, oh, I don't have to go to the bush again to get firewood. That keeps me excited all the time. And the second question, that I have not yet explored, but my team and I are working on getting ourselves ready to explore that option as well. Thank you.
That's brilliant, Patience. How about you, Makandi? What brings you most joy in the work you do?
Yeah, I think I'll start off by just mentioning, like that 70% of Wanjira Fund's clients are really women. With majority of them really reporting that agriculture is their primary economic activity. However, when it comes to technology, there's no doubt that there is definitely potential for the ag tech to greatly improve the livelihoods of, for women. And so for me, I really do see this as a great opportunity to contribute to our operational model in empowering women in the agricultural space, and basically ensuring that we are creating value for them, high value for women to be able to, pull themselves out of poverty and just be fully empowered.
That's great. I have to admit that gives me great joy as well. And Natasha, how about you? What brings you great joy in this work?
Thank you so much, Wanjira. What gives me great joy is seeing young women and girls from rural communities stepping up as leaders in their communities, turning the tide of poverty and becoming willing to give back to their community, and also being able to address some of the challenges that they went through, and also being able to show other girls what is possible, showing them that they pass through the same path of poverty and marginality and face the same challenges to get educated, and showing the other girls that it is possible, you can do it, and this is how you can do it. So that's what gives me joy. We have so many stories in our association, beautiful stories of how young women turned what was impossible into a possibility, and how now they are championing education and being able to just change their stories and change the stories of their communities for the better. Thank you so much.
Love it, Natasha. And I love somebody, I think Kristen has also said it, like showing other girls what's possible. It's so important that we share that joy, and all of you are actually articulating that is what brings you joy is actually what's when you see the manifestation of your work in others. So I want to come to you as well. What brings you joy, the most joy in your work?
Yes, thank you, Wanjira, and fantastic reflection from our colleagues. So my joy is that when Bangladesh government take a motion, it's named planetary emergency, not just climate emergency. Planetary emergency means biodiversity, nature, ecosystem. And when the IPU former president Sabir Hossain shared our activism movements photo in the parliament, and recognizing our youth movement and take these historical motion in Bangladesh. So it was my great joy. And that time I was in Nairobi to join ICPD. So I was yeah. So it was unthinkable that government take this kind of motion. And another is when one young activist from my network who played a great role to flood response and awarded, and our another young boy, he's a migrant, climate migrant, he lost his father in cyclone. He managed his fellowship with Climate Vulnerable Forum, and he received his access to join COP27, and we fight together in COP27. And our Prime Minister denounced 16 coal-based power plant in Glasgow. So all moments are joyous for me. Thank you. Over to Wanjira.
That's great, Sohanur. I'm so glad it was in Nairobi too, one of those moments. I just want to I think we have time for me to do one last round. I could spend the whole day listening to all of you. It's fascinating. And I just wanted to ask if you had one piece of advice to women who are working with you or in your space. If you have a woman in front of you and you have one piece of advice for her, she wants to know how she can be involved in the work that you're doing or how she can be part of your movement, what would you say to her? I'll start with you, Sohanur.
Okay. So be hopeful, continue your fight, and achieve knowledge leadership. Thank you. Over to Wanjira.
Be hopeful. Thank you, Sohanur. We lost a little bit at the end there, but I love the hope that there is always hope. I'm an optimist too, Sohanur, so I like that a lot. Makandi, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I'd basically say start today. Not tomorrow, not next year, start today. For your efforts to be able to start building up as we go into the future.
That's brilliant. Start today. This is wonderful. Hope, start today. Patience. What would you say?
I'll say know that you are unique, and know that there's nobody that is like you. Know that whatever you do, you do it in your own way. Don't get intimidated by what people say about you. And make sure that you continue to practice the small habits that will make you achieve the higher goals in life. Thank you.
What advice, Patience. Thank you. Know that you are unique. You are, and whatever you do, do not be intimidated. We all need that piece of advice. As well, Natasha, what would be your advice?
Thank you so much. I think this is for everyone, and especially every woman. You are valued and you have what it takes to make this world a better place. So do not doubt yourself.
Do not doubt yourself. I love those. We actually have a little bit more time to take that time to ask you a few more questions, at least all of you, one more question. And this has to do with resources that people can access to learn more about your work, to basically people who are listening to engage with these topics. So I'll just go around. If you have any resources in particular that you would recommend, feel free to mention them, and then type them in the chat so that people can take them away. I'll start with you, Makandi. If there's any resource that you feel, if you want to know more, if you want to do more on these topics, go here.
Yeah, so I will first just start by mentioning that I'd recommend, for anyone who wants to know more about what One Acre Fund does, and Tupande by One Acre Fund, which is the One Acre Fund Kenya program, please do visit our website. There's a lot of resources on there to basically inform you on the work we do, the impact that we are generating for our clients, and basically the regions and geographical locations that we operate in, and what our vision is in the near future. I'd also recommend checking out a recently published report, and I'll definitely copy the link onto the chatbot, by the organization Value for Women, that has really derived very interesting insights on that's basically touching on digitalization amongst women, what the gaps are, and how digital platforms can really work for women in rural agricultural livelihood. So yeah.
Terrific, Makandi. Thank you so much. How about you, Natasha? Resources, CAMFED has lots.
Indeed, Wanjira, we have loads of great resources, case studies, stories, and videos of the work in action on our CAMFED website. And this includes the evidence and the resources that we use to design our climate education resource for the climate education program that we are yet to launch in the schools. So that can be accessed on the CAMFED website. We'll be able to share the link in the chat for those that will need to check that out. And we also have our International Women's Day We Are Change Makers campaign. We'll be able to share the link chat so that you can check it out. It features a number of climate game changers and stories about women that are making a difference in their communities from our network. And we also have social media channels, and I'll be able to just add that to the chat so that in case you want to know more about CAMFED and the CAMFED Association and what we do, you can just go to those links and be able to learn. I've just seen Anki Adams from CAMFED has already shared those links, so please check them out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natasha. Patience.
Yeah, so you can learn more about us on LinkedIn. When you go to, you just type Econexus Ventures Limited, you learn more about us. And also, if you want to learn more about clean cooking, please visit the Clean Cooking Alliance website. You get a lot of resource information there on clean cooking and its advantage and everything. So please, that's information I had to share. Thank you.
And finally, Sohanur.
Yes, thank you. I already shared my Twitter handle. So we are sharing our all resources in Twitter. And I can recommend it about, I work with Men Engage Alliance for transforming masculinities and addressing gender. So you can find some interesting discussion paper on Men Engage Alliance. And also you can find some papers, report on Save the Children website about Red Alert campaign and as well as Generation Hope campaign. Thank you. Over to you, Wanjira.
Thanks so much. It has been a great pleasure. Who knew time would fly so fast when you have Makandi, Natasha, Patience, and Sohanur? Time just whizzes past. So thank you all so much. You guys have been amazing. I've enjoyed listening to you. I've enjoyed learning from you. And most of all, I hope our audience and everybody who has been here will continue to engage with this work. Thank you too for those who put your questions. And I cannot tell you how amazing it was to get all the wonderful confetti flying through the screen. Clearly the audience enjoyed this panel. And I just also want to thank Project Drawdown and Clean Cooking Alliance for organizing this fun event and for picking me to moderate, because it was such a great time. So as we wrap up, I hope that everybody is as inspired and invigorated as I am. You'll see a poll has popped up. Please respond to this. And you know, we keep working towards and implementing climate solutions that will strengthen locally led adaptation. I know myself, wherever I am, these are the ideas that I want to continue to direct resources to, that boost human well-being, that are on the ground. And you know, anything that we do, we must remain hopeful. We must start right now, start yesterday, start today. Know that you are unique and actually you are amazing. And as these young people have told us, the sky is not even the limit. I think we have much more we can do. I want to encourage you to think about these 5 calls to action that you will see here, and think about what you can do to raise ambition and advance climate action. You're welcome to choose more than one, of course. And they should be there. I think the second and the first one is what you're taking away from this webinar. I'm taking a lot, so I hope you are too. Visit, I hope as you're filling those polls, you'll visit the drawdown.org and download the report, the fact sheet, the video. I know that this link will also be available for you. Take 2 minutes to please complete this survey. We want to hear from you. We definitely want to share these insights far and wide. And again, thank you, Makandi. Thank you, Natasha, Patience, and Sohanur. You guys have been outstanding. Appreciate you attending today, and I'm going to pass it right back to Kristen and Jillene. And there are the results. Actually, can I maybe just reflect a little bit of what people are taking away? Examples of how women are leading on climate action. Up to 52% of you taking that away. Climate solutions that strengthen adaptation, contribute to human well-being, and advance mitigation. That's exactly what we hoped. So thank you very, very much. Kristen and Jillene, over to you.
Thank you so much, Wanjira. This has just been wonderful. I feel so energized and just inspired by all of the work that all of our panelists are doing, and incredibly grateful to all of you for taking the time late in your days and in your early evenings to join us and to share your inspiration and your knowledge. So thank you so much, and look forward to centering women and gender equality in climate actions and climate solutions, because as we all know, what we've been doing hasn't been working. And so we need to really just put women at the center, and people who are side by side with women, as we heard today from Sohanur. So we're just so grateful for all of you for joining. And Jillene, over to you for any final remarks.
Yes, it's a very tough act to follow, this group. So I will say that I am very, very hopeful for the future. It's so inspiring to see women and young people especially really leading the way. So organizations like CCA, Project Drawdown, WRI are all working to create opportunities to highlight your voices and build capacity and really make sure everyone's getting out of the way so that you can lead us into a prosperous and inclusive future. So congratulations to everyone, and we look forward to working with you for many, many years to come.
Jillene, I hope someone took a wonderful screenshot of this amazing, so maybe before we leave, we should do that, and then we can share it far and wide. But it was, yes, so I know you're looking great. Everyone's looking great. I'm sure someone did. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
See you
Take
soon.
care. Bye.